Welcome everybody to I can't believe it's our final Tiger Talk of the season. It's been so much fun this past year to get into not only talking to our student athletes about stuff between the lines, but talking to our student athletes and our administrators and others and our former student athletes and administrators, and getting to know their stories and really getting into the fabric of Pacific and what it means, what it means to different people. I think that's been something we've really enjoyed over the last year. So my name is Zack Bayrouty. Welcome. I have a distinguished panel here, and I'm going to introduce our panel, and then I'm going to introduce our Director of Athletics, Janet Lucas. So first, I want to just introduce our student athletes. We have Viktoria Tamas, a redshirt senior on the women's water polo team from, is it Kerepes? How do you say your hometown in Hungary, Victoria?
Kerepes.
Kerepes. I had no shot at getting that.
But you can say right? Budapest because
okay.
Yes, I live like 20 minutes from Budapest, so you can say Budapest.
Okay, easy enough from Budapest. So welcome to Victoria. Also Jackson Vaughn, a junior on our baseball team from Bakersfield, and Val Higgins, who is right now in New York getting ready for the WNBA, who was just drafted by the New York Liberty. Congratulations, Val. We're going to get into that story, obviously, here in a moment. But first and foremost, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Janet Lucas, our Director of Athletics.
Thank you, Zach. I appreciate it. Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for joining us for this final Tiger Talk of 2021. It has been the quickest year and the longest year all at the same time. I do want to tell you, first off, I come with a little bit of a disclaimer tonight. As I visited one of our wonderful DeConey School of Dentistry graduates earlier today, and I mostly have the use of my face back, so just bear with me because it's the Novocaine is still wearing off. I know absolutely how much we all look forward to sharing these moments in person next year and getting back to attending athletic events. But bringing this very unusual year to a close virtually, with a focus on our amazing student athletes, their unique stories, and the very real and very profound impact of your generosity seems most fitting to me. This was a year when our supporters could have stepped away for many reasons, but you didn't. Your donations, your participation through the Tiger Talks and other virtual events let us know that Tiger fans are the most loyal and the absolute best, so thank you. Maintaining the connection with each of you this year was very important to us. And you, as always, were there to support, encourage, and celebrate the Tigers. From my perspective, we are here to celebrate, but also to appreciate. To celebrate our Pacific Athletics family that includes our student athletes, coaches, donors, fans, parents, staff, and administrators. To appreciate the support that each of you provide through your virtual presence, participation, and donations. To appreciate the athletic, academic, and personal accomplishments of our remarkable scholar athletes. And to celebrate the difference that you make in the lives of our student athletes and our extended Pacific community. As I have repeatedly said, I probably try to say it as often as possible because it's really something special. As the challenges associated with this year continued, I just became more and more proud of our student athletes, how they accepted disappointments with grace and embraced the opportunities that they did have while also navigating the unknown and the unforeseen throughout the year. And we've got a long list of those various circumstances. We've stayed focused on gratitude as the year progressed, and my gratitude for each of you is beyond measure. Thank you for believing in us and for believing in this very special scholar athlete experience that happens here at our university. We have students in our program with really big dreams. And even in the middle of a global pandemic, they made history. These dreams extend from the WNBA to the Olympics and national teams, from battling the odds to careers beyond sport, and they include valedictorians and 4.0 scholars. It is just amazing. And this is best illustrated by our student athletes, by their own words, their own individual journeys. And you will get to hear three very special stories this evening. These student athletes will help illustrate for you the nature of your life-changing impact, and how thankful, how very thankful we all are for each of you. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the Pacific family. And I look forward to hearing from our three very special student athletes. Zach, back to you.
Thank you, Janet. Very, very well said. We have, as Janet mentioned, three student athletes here tonight with very unique stories and very interesting paths to not only Pacific, but in one instance to their professional career now. So let's get right to it. Viktoria Tamas, redshirt senior from Budapest, Hungary. How you doing, Viktoria?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Well, thank you. Tell us a little bit about where you are now, and what's kind of on the horizon for you in the next couple of months.
So right now I'm in Stockton, and I'm planning to go back to Hungary late May or early June. I haven't decided about it. I'm still figuring out what I'm gonna do in the future. So I have some plans, but I just don't wanna talk about it because I'm superstitious. So
I totally get it. I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire as far as talking about your future plans, but it's good to know you're still in Stockton, and welcome. Thank you for being here. Jackson Vaughn, how you doing, man?
Good. How about yourself?
I am doing well. I saw you guys this past weekend. It was a wild series with USF this past weekend.
Yes, sir. Ups and downs.
Crazy up and downs. But how are you? And tell us a little bit about the season that you're currently in right now.
Doing well. Had a little bit of a velo drop, so we're trying to work back from that. But everything's coming up, and Tigers are coming up too. We're starting to win a little bit more, and just hoping to keep that ball rolling.
What's the is the velo drop? Is it something mechanical? I mean, do you even know at this point?
We're kind of confused as a whole coaching staff. We've kind of gone through a bunch of things, and part of it mechanical, part of it being a little bit tired, and
sure.
You know what? That's what we know.
Yeah. Well, hey, keep grinding, keep working, and I'm sure you'll at least figure it out and get to work on it. Thank you for being here, man. And Valerie Higgins coming to us from Brooklyn tonight. How are you doing, Val?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Congratulations on behalf of everyone here. Obviously, we're going to talk about what happened. You were selected by the New York Liberty in the first pick of the third round of the WNBA draft, and became the first Pacific women's basketball player ever to be drafted. When I tell you that, how does that make you feel?
It's still a little surreal, I would say. Everything just kind of happened so fast from the draft. I've just kind of been taking it day by day, just, kind of living in the moment and just enjoying everything.
Sure. Well, we're excited to get into your story too, and we're gonna delve in starting now. I'm gonna circle back to Viktoria, and I'm gonna try and bounce from student athlete to student athlete so we can incorporate everyone and not kind of leave anyone hanging for a long period of time. But Viktoria, can you tell us a little bit about how you got from Hungary to Pacific? I know it's water polo, right? So this seems to happen with water polo players. There's this like path to Pacific now, but how did you get hooked up with Pacific and come all the way out here?
yes, I think I already told you this story in Wine and Water Polo, but I'm gonna tell you again.
I'm asking again because we don't know who.
Yeah, so actually, I got recruited by a Hungarian player because she told me that back in the time, the assistant coach saw me play at the Junior World in Madrid, where we actually got the third place. And so she saw me play there, and she was very interested in me. And she messaged Annie, who messaged me to come here to UOP. And I told her that I still had 2 more years from high school, but she said it was fine. Just concentrate on learning English and take all the exams. So that's what I did. I switched to German as my second language to English, and I took the SAT, the TOEFL in 2 years. And after, when I was in my last year of high school, I messaged James that I really want to come here. And I was talking to another Hungarian player who was here already. Her name is Vicky, and she told me very good stories and things about the school as well as the team. And she basically also convinced me to come here. So this is how I ended up here. I was actually never on a recruit trip. So it was just like, and this was the first time that I was here in the US. So it was a big move, but I think it was one of the best decisions of my life. So
I'm glad to hear that. So I was going to ask what it's been like for you, and what were your first impressions of the United States and of Stockton?
Stockton, I mean, I thought it would be closer to the ocean, but
So did
I
Michael
mean,
Olowokandi, but that worked out.
yeah, I actually like it that it's not close to the ocean because it's not distractive. You know, like here we can only focus on school and water polo, so we don't have any more like distractions. But as for the school and the people, it was also like very different. In Hungary, people are usually pessimistic. So here, I just realized that everyone is so optimistic and so friendly and just like open to others. So that was very impressive. And as for the school, it's a pretty small school, but this is also, I think I really like it, that it's small and we have small class sizes because this is how we actually get to know the others, and professors actually know you by your name, and they create just like such a friendly and like a family environment that actually we international students, I think we need the most. You know, like we are so like homesick sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But when you go to school and like everyone is almost like your friend, and the professors, and they are just so supportive and helpful. And in Hungary, it's not really the case because I heard from my friends that in Hungary they don't really professors don't really help you, but here they really want you to succeed, and they know you that you're an athlete and they would help you with anything. And back home, it's not the same.
What was it like playing for James?
Interesting.
I love it. This is one of my favorite questions that I've asked. I've asked it over and over again in the last year, but you get different answers every time. I love James. He's a unique guy.
I love James too. It's different for sure because I think everyone knows that he's all about the numbers and stats, which is not very common in Hungary to rely on the numbers that much. But I think it's just like he has a great view and respect of water polo, and I really appreciated that he introduced me into this world basically. And I mean, it was great. Like he always created a competitive environment during practices, and I think he's also very good at recruiting international players. And I think this is UOP's water polo program is known for having many international players, and I think this is something that makes us diverse and unique from other teams, because I think each international player just brings something to the team, and we create like such a different and unique team environment, I think, and we can just learn so much from the other culture actually. So yeah.
Well, we're glad you came, and we're glad you showed up in Stockton. We're gonna circle back to you about a couple of other things, but I'm gonna bounce over to Jackson right now, our junior from Bakersfield from the baseball team. How you doing, man? You got me? Is Jackson muted, or can I just not hear him?
He's not muted.
Oh, there you go. There you go. See, that's why I always ask the how you doing, and I know I asked you twice, but I just want to make sure that that we're communicating. You had a path through JUCO to come to Pacific, but I want to talk about first your younger days and what you overcame when you were, essentially a baby. You had stage 4 liver cancer at age 3. You had 2 heart attacks. You had a liver transplant. I know a lot of us saw the feature. I think KCRA did the feature on you recently. But can you, for those that didn't see, can you tell us what you overcome before you were 5 years old?
Yeah, so I think around 3 years old, my parents started noticing a bump on my abdomen. And we went to a few doctors at first, and no one really seemed to, I guess, know what it was. So we were kind of like, all right, let's wait and see what happens. Kept going around and around, and eventually we got to Lucille Packard Children's Hospital. And within 30 minutes, the doctors told my parents that I was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. And from there began a wild ride. And first thing that we kind of did, we went through chemotherapy. I actually had 11 rounds of chemotherapy. And once we stopped the cancer from spreading, we got the first liver transplant. And everything was fine. We were happy. But they ended up doing what's called a wash-up, which is where they go in and they check on the liver. And essentially the liver was dead. So my body was trying to function without a liver. So they immediately rushed me on the life support. And while on life support, I had my first heart attack, which lasted for 10 minutes or 10 minutes of cardiac arrest, and got done with that one, thought we were safe. And then a few minutes later, I actually had another heart attack, which lasted 36 minutes. And while I was in cardiac arrest, about 30 minutes in, a lot of the doctors wanted to give up because they really didn't think that I was going to make it past it. A lot of 3-year-olds don't make it past 30 minutes. And even with that, if they get back, they have significant brain damage. So the chances of me making it back and then making it back without brain damage were incredible. And the doctor looked up above my bed and saw a little Polaroid picture of me playing with a little plastic dinosaur, with my favorite thing while I was in the hospital. And he said, I'm going to fight for this kid. And without that, I wouldn't be here today. So all the thanks to him and all the thanks to Lucille Packard Children's Medical Hospital staff, because they've done such an amazing job for me and so many other kids. And yeah, that was the big part. Well, and I had another liver transplant after that, but yeah.
Okay. I was gonna ask, so my follow-up was going to be when you were, 3 years old, like what does a liver transplant entail at that age? Like, do you have to find a liver that's, it can't be an adult liver, right? Or can it?
I don't exactly know. I've always thought about that. I think that I know you're put on a list, and for the first liver I got, I wasn't very high up. We were lucky to get one. And like I said, like it's not very likely to get 2 livers. The chances of you getting 1 liver aren't very likely. You have to have a bunch of things, like the cancer can't be spreading. It can't be past a certain stage. So being in stage 4 and getting a liver is pretty unlikely. And yeah, it was just, like I said, a lot of people stuck their necks out for me, and it's pretty amazing to see that.
And how much do you actually recollect? I'm trying to think of what I remembered when I was 3 years old, and I have a pretty good memory, but I don't know if I could remember much. But something that traumatic, do you remember vividly some things?
Not really. I think I told the news or the newscast the same thing. I remember what I called the donut days, which are the CT scans, because I go through the circle, big old donut. And I was really particular on what I ate at that point in time. I would either have a orange or purple popsicle that day with a carton of chocolate milk. I don't really know why, but that was the go-to meal.
Sounds pretty good right now, actually. Nothing wrong with a popsicle and some chocolate milk ever.
Exactly.
When were you able to start competing? Obviously your body went through a lot. At what age were you healthy enough to even get back out onto a field or wherever you were playing at that time?
I think my first sport was tennis, and I started around maybe 6 or 7. And same in the article, I was horrible. I was honestly horrible at everything I tried when I started. I was small. I was not very strong, not very fast, but I was always having a good time. And I guess something instinctively was like, you're on borrowed time. You might as well have a good time and smile about it and whatnot. And I think a couple years later, after I was done with tennis, because I was not winning at all, I was like, all right, let's go to a team sport. I need someone to carry me. So I ended up at baseball, and kind of the rest is history from there.
And you survived the Bakersfield summers playing baseball, which I'm a veteran of Bakersfield, I've called a lot of games at Sam Lynn Ballpark. Did you ever go to Sam Lynn as a kid?
Yes, sir. Good old Sam Lynn.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting part of town. But yeah, you were a Bakersfield High driller. How long were you playing baseball before you got to Bakersfield High? Because you actually had a pretty good run at Bakersfield High.
Yeah, I think I started baseball when I was 9. And like I said, the first few years were rough. It was just more of a social thing for me. But then I started wanting to get better, or I don't even know if it was wanting to get better at that point. I just really liked it. So I'd be like, Dad, can we schedule some more lessons? Can we schedule some more lessons with this guy and this guy and this guy? And everything kind of started accumulating. I think at one point when I was 14 or 15, someone told me I was hardworking. I was like, I have no clue what that means. I just like baseball. It was a fun thing for me.
For sure. Hardworking is all relative at that age when you're doing something, that you love.
Yeah.
So how did you get your sights set on Stockton and Delta College? That's one of the best junior college programs in the country.
Yeah, so originally out of high school, I was recruited by UC Santa Barbara, and things didn't work out there for the better. I was actually on the team 2 days before season, and I got cut. I was the last person to be cut, and I'm going to be honest, I was pretty depressed at that point because I put in everything I could. I did everything the coaches told me, and it didn't work out. And at that point, I had to figure out where I wanted to go from there. And one of my, I guess, family friends, his name is Joey Scratchick, just got a job as the pitching coach for Delta. And he was like, "Hey man, you want to be my first recruit?" And I was kind of like going through some other schools, and I was like, "Why not? Let's do that." So got to Delta, and I can't remember who it was, but one of my old coaches kind of doubted Joey and I's relationship to get me to the next level. And Joey and I took that personally. So we're like, all right, we're going to get me to D1 as fast as possible. So before I even stepped foot on campus, Joey's like, all right, I got Chris Rodriguez on the phone for you. Talk to him. And we started talking, getting a dialogue with Chris. And let's just say we proved that coach wrong pretty quickly.
That's awesome. Well, we're happy you're here. We're going to circle back again and kind of talk more about your journey and your experience. But thanks for being here, man. And congrats on surviving till age 5. I mean, that was in and of itself was a huge accomplishment for you. Probably the biggest thing in your life. So congrats.
Awesome. Thank you.
Val, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am wonderful. How's Brooklyn treating you?
It's great. It is a beautiful city. I love it here. I think the highlight of my day is trying a new restaurant every night for dinner. I love to just walk around and explore the city, try new things. So
yeah, what a place to end up. I'm going to, in case anyone's late joining, Val was the first player in Pacific women's basketball history to be selected in the WNBA draft. She was the first pick taken in the 3rd round of the draft by the New York Liberty. Were you expecting to get drafted? What was your expectation going into draft night?
I wouldn't say I expected to get drafted. I knew I was kind of on the cusp, like right there. And then I think it was 2 days, maybe even the day before the draft, ESPN released like the mock draft. And they had me down there at like 33 or 34, one of the last people to get drafted. And that's when it kind of hit me. And I was like, wow, like there's a real possibility that I might get drafted. But I think I didn't have any expectations. I just kind of put it in God's hands. And I was like, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen. And, just sitting there on draft night with my family and watching all these other, women get drafted. And then when my name was called, I was like, wow, like that's me, that's my name, I did it. I got drafted. It was like a dream come true. And being able to be with my family was so awesome.
Bree, do me a favor and unmute Bradley, because I want Bradley to jump in here real quick. Bradley, I want you can do 2 things. You can brag on Val, and you can tell us about your emotions when all this happened.
Well, Val knows me well enough to know that I'm fighting back, like tearing up right now, just left and right. So, the emotions are real. You're just so proud that she was able to achieve that dream and get drafted. And beyond that, like, I know she's working her tail off. It's a tough road, and she's working her tail off and continuing. And so I'm just really proud of her. Just period, end of story.
Can you give us, before I put you back on mute again, can you just give us some insight as to what made Val draft worthy and what makes her so special?
Best part is Val wished she had that mute button all year long. I don't know. You'd have to ask her current coach about that. But obviously, her length, her ability to defend, I think was really key. You looked at where she ranked in terms of all the draftable prospects, and she was number 1 in steals. She was number 5 or 6 somewhere in rebounds or something down there. So she statted out real well in terms of defense, and she brought that energy and intensity. And when you're putting together a training camp, I can't imagine that hurts whatsoever. So I think it's just her all-around ability to fill the stat sheet, which she did for us day after day. But defense probably led that charge.
And Bradley, one more. What did it mean for you to see Pacific up there, to see your program for the first time, on draft day?
It was crazy. I was the idiot that was taking a camera shot of my TV at the same time when I probably could have done that some more technological way. But I was definitely doing that, put it on pause, like, ooh, there's Val, there's Pacific, I was just happy for her, just really happy for her more than anything else. Didn't really hit me till later, and talking to a couple of people like, yeah, Pacific flashed across that screen. And, you appreciate all that. You hope that your athletes, your student athletes, leave these footprints, on the university, and that are indelible and stand the test of time. And Val's definitely done that, and she's made Pacific really proud.
Awesome. Thanks, Bradley.
You
Just to reinforce what Bradley was saying, Val was a 2-time WCC Defensive Player of the Year, 3-time first team All West Coast Conference. Val, take us through your journey to Pacific, and I know it went through USC.
Mm-hmm. So I was at USC previously before Pacific. My head coach had left, and so I kind of made the decision to transfer. Getting to Pacific is actually kind of funny. I was in Palm Springs at my grandparents' house, and I think Bradley had noticed that I was in the transfer portal. And I got a text from my good friend Isabel Newman saying, hey, like, she's going to be going to Pacific. Would you mind like talking to my head coach? We're really interested. Like, we want you to come. And I was like, okay, I'll give him a phone call, don't want to close any doors. And we just had a really genuine conversation. And just from that conversation with Bradley alone, I could tell, his just genuineness, his, transparency with me. And it was refreshing because a lot of times I think being recruited, coaches tell you kind of what you want to hear. And they tell you things, like, come to this school for this and that reason. But we just had a really great conversation. And, I was like, okay, I'm going to took a visit. And just met, amazing people, saw the university, and just was honestly blown away. I think I didn't have any expectations coming in, and I think just the girls and the staff kind of won me over. So
I think Pacific, in my conversations with pretty much everyone that's been on these, Pacific has been a great proving ground for a lot of people that have either had to shift gears or have been doubted, or maybe they weren't doubted and maybe Pacific just made them better. But how did your time at Pacific help you grow and get you to the point where you are now?
Helped me in a lot of ways. I think I have just in life had a lot of struggles and have gone through a lot of things that, having that support of a family, that to back me and just help guide me through everything, becoming a better person, becoming a better player, just having those supports on and off the court was extremely helpful to me. And I think, being at Pacific, I just think all the supports that I had, I would never have gone anywhere else. And it just meant a lot to me that, my teammates, my coaching staff, like, believed in me and just pushed me to be better. I think, it was just having their belief and their faith in me as a player, especially, like, boosted my confidence, like, beyond anything ever. Like, I don't think I was ever quite a scorer, but coming to Pacific kind of forced me to be one. And so I think that was great. And I just had an amazing experience.
What was it like playing for Bradley?
It was awesome. I mean, Bradley's a great coach, even better person. He goes above and beyond. I don't think there's any coach that does the things that Bradley does off the court, whether it's help you move, like, whatever you need, like, cook us a good, like, home cooked meal. He's just a great person, a great coach. And it's the little things that make all the difference, because you can have a coach that, will respect you as a player, but Bradley's the type of person that respects you as a player, but even more so, like, respects and appreciates the person that you are.
Very well said. What is it? How does it feel to be a Trailblazer? I mean, how does it feel to be the first women's basketball player from Pacific to get drafted in the WNBA draft?
It means a lot to me. And I think the thing I keep saying is that I'm the first, but I don't want to be the last. Like, I want to lay out this groundwork so that someone else can have this opportunity and experience the things that I'm experiencing. And just kind of like the saying of putting Pacific on the map. I believe in the university so much, and the people, the staff, everyone in the athletic department. And I just want to be able to put it on a national scale, have people, know who and what Pacific is about, because it's a great place. So.
Well, we're very lucky to have had you come through Pacific, especially after you say that. So thank you for that. I'm going to circle back to Viktoria. How did you, as an international student, how did you learn how to balance everything in your life? You're so far from home, you're competing at a very high level in the pool, and you have academics. I mean, Pacific is an academic driven institution. So how did you balance all that?
I mean, I've been playing water polo for more than 12 years, so it's been a part of my life since forever, basically. So I grew up like, having practices and then going to school, going to practice again, and just like go home, study. So I cannot imagine my life without sports. So I think if there was no sport, I would be lost, basically. And I actually learned how to study on by like traveling at the airport. So basically, if it like when we had games, I knew that okay, this is the time when I have to sit down and study and focus on studying. But when we didn't have games, I was like, oh, I can just procrastinate, just like study later. And that's when I did not do my assignment. So so actually the sport and water polo helped me to have the balance in my life.
But by the way, if anyone has questions, you can submit them to the chat window. It'll be sent to Bree, who will then forward them to me. We close it off so that nothing gets hacked. We think that's the safest way to do it. So if you have questions for any of our student athletes, please submit them in the chat window, and we're going to leave like the last 10, 15 minutes or so to ask your questions. Viktoria, what did you study, by the way?
Business marketing, and I'm also a graphic design minor.
Okay. How was that for you? Did you get everything you wanted out of your studies?
Yes, 100%.
I know I'm like teetering here because I feel like it's my responsibility to ask you what you want to do after college with that. But you said you're superstitious and you don't want to.
Yes, I have plans, but I just don't want to talk about them because I feel like if I tell them, then it's not gonna happen. So
Just give us a teaser. Do you think you want to stay in the U.S. or are you going to go back to Europe?
I'm planning to go back to Europe.
Okay.
Not particularly in Hungary, but just like to Europe.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it at that, and we'll come back to you here shortly. Jackson, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Like, I know you were valedictorian, right, at Bakersfield High School, which is an amazing honor. Has it been harder or easier than you thought it would be to balance everything once you got to Pacific in terms of academics and baseball?
Been harder, a lot harder than I thought. I mean, especially with some of the classes that I've been taking, those are pretty conceptual, and it's hard for me. Yeah.
What's your path? What are you studying, and what do you ultimately want to do?
So I'm currently a geology major, and I don't exactly know. I think something in rare earth minerals would be cool. Just trying to go out and I guess survey land and see what I can find from it and go from there.
Interesting. I didn't know that there was geology at Pacific, so you can take geology.
Wow. It's a very small major. I think most of my classes have like 5 people, 6 people. So
wow, that's new for me. Did not know. What was it like going through COVID for you? Were you considered more at risk because of your medical history?
I might have been. I never really felt like it. I always, I don't know if it's part of me surviving such odds, but I told myself I'm invincible a good amount, whether that be ignorant or not. But I always felt like it just because I went through a lot, and I'm hoping that I am. So, that's why. Yeah.
I would, if I were in your shoes, I would think so, considering what you've been through so far. Viktoria, what was it like for you going through? I know we probably asked you this on a different Tiger Talk, but going through COVID and being far away from home, and everything that comes with it. What was that like for you?
When I was here or when I was home?
Yeah, both.
Because so when COVID hit, I was still in the US and I stayed here till May, I think. And it was actually pretty hard to go home because my flight got canceled all the time. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna stay here till like May and just focus on finishing my classes. And that time I was redshirting, so I was not gonna play anyways. But yeah, I really miss practices and miss the games also. And so when I went home, I stayed home till January, so I didn't come back in the fall, and that was pretty rough to not see my teammates and not practice with them. And but also like actually on the other hand, I could practice with my old team back in Hungary, so that was like also a little bit positive about it, that I could like see my old friends and just practice with them and with my old coach. But yeah, it was not the best time of my life actually.
Yeah, for a lot of us, especially for you in that situation, in those circumstances, that is so tough. Val, I'm going to start with balancing everything that you had to balance while you were at Pacific. We'll do that and then COVID. But what was it like for you to strike that balance and to get through both, you know, rigorous competition on the court and then rigorous classroom work off the court?
I think the key word you said is balance, because it is one. I think a lot of times like things can just get overwhelming, you know, especially with travel and just the way like our season is. But just kind of finding that fine line and that balance of making sure you're getting everything done and you're staying on top of things, but that you're also taking time for yourself, I think is so important. And it was just, you know, just finding that right kind of balance of between, you know, doing homework, studying, getting in the gym, and just being able to be a student athlete. So
as far as getting through COVID, what was that process like for you?
it was, you know, it was kind of tough because I was like back and forth. I'm like, are we going to have a season? You know, it was just a lot of stuff was up in the air, how the season was going to look, just, and I think when we started our season, I think basketball was the only ones in season on campus. So campus was like completely empty. It was like a ghost town. It was kind of hard, you know, for me. I think the struggle was thinking like, as a nation, the crisis, you know, that we were going through and we were still playing basketball was like kind of like mind boggling to me. But at the same time, I was appreciative of the opportunity and just had to make the most of it. But it was definitely a crazy season, games getting canceled and just having to be flexible and just being able to take everything day by day and just kind of not knowing. But I think it made our team a lot stronger, what we went through, and just being able to, you know, just kind of stick together and having to support one another. So
What's it like right now in the WNBA universe with protocols and what you're having to do for that?
so it's a lot different because we have to get like vaccinated, so everyone's fully vaccinated, and with the vaccine out, it's a lot less restrictive now than it was when we had our season. But the rules are pretty much the same, I would say. You know, we're still expected to kind of be quarantined and isolated. Like being in Brooklyn, I know one of the big things is like taking the subway, and like I want to do that, but I'm not allowed to. So there's just little things like just to be safe and to be cautious, you know, can't eat inside of restaurants, and just making sure that, you know, we're doing everything that we can to stay healthy. So
Well, you can walk the Brooklyn Bridge, right?
I can, and I have done that. That was fun. Yes.
It's way better than the subway. The view is much, much better.
Yes.
Give us some insight as to your path now. So, you know, you get drafted and now what's your path looking like, and what's the way to get where you ultimately want to get?
So it's kind of crazy. It's very cutthroat in the WNBA. Being drafted doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make the team. There's cuts happening all the time, and that's kind of essentially what training camp is. And so I'm still here at training camp, so that's great, but just taking it day by day. You know, I'm just so blessed for this opportunity to be here, and I've just been having so much fun, and I've been learning so much from, you know, these vets that have been playing in the WNBA for years on years, and just being able to be on the same floor as the greatest players in the nation, and to be considered one of those players is already such an honor. And I'm just kind of taking it day by day, having fun, you know, working my butt off on the court, but trying to get a spot. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is an experience that I'm never going to forget. And so I just kind of keep taking that and keep reminding myself that. So
I've broadcasted for the Stockton Ports for 14 years. And we had a player come through in 2014. Jackson, you might know him, or if anyone's a baseball fan, Daniel Robertson. He was a shortstop. He was with the Rays. The A's drafted him. He was a supplemental first-round pick. Anyways, his dad passed away of cancer right before he had arrived in Stockton, and he wore a tape on his wrist, like a wristband of like masking tape, and he wrote on it BYB. And I asked him one day what it meant. He goes, "My dad always would tell me, believe you belong." He goes, when he was so good that he'd always get bumped up to play at the highest level of competition wherever he was. And he'd be nervous about, the higher level of competition. And that was his dad's advice, BYB, believe you belong. So I always remember that if I'm somewhere where I feel like I'm kind of in rarefied air, but believe you belong, Val, like you earned that. Like you should be there with those players. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
sure. Viktoria, I want to go back to you. I'd be remiss if I didn't say, and I was reminded, can you tell us a little bit about what it meant to you to get recognized in the NCAA Elite 90 winner? You're an NCAA Elite 90 winner twice. So what that is, it recognizes a student athlete with the highest cumulative grade point average who's reached the competition at the finals site for each of the NCAA's 90 men's and women's championships across its 3 divisions. So this is like a big time honor, and you were a back-to-back winner. Can you tell us what that meant to you to have that honor?
I felt really honored for sure, but I feel like I couldn't have done it without the support of my family, my Pacific family, athletics, academic support, and everyone, and my coaches, of course, and my family back home. So without them, I could not have achieved this achievement.
Well, congratulations on that. That's an amazing accomplishment.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, you mentioned support, Viktoria, and I'm going to ask this around the horn. When you say you were supported at Pacific, what did that entail? Was it coaches? Was it administrators? Was it boosters? Like, what was the best way you were supported at Pacific?
Everyone included, I think. So from the donors, we received support, and we could afford nutritional meals and gears in and out of the water. And also we just got a new scoreboard, I think 2 years ago maybe. And that also like helps us to improve, because sometimes we watch videos and watch our games there, and we analyze our games on the screen. So that really helps us to be better. And also when we travel, we also get meals, and we stay at real nice hotels. And also without the donors, we cannot afford to fund our recruiting trips, which is essential to expand our teams and to get the best players.
It's well said. Jackson, I'm going to throw that over to you. Like, in what way are you best supported at Pacific? Like, what does that mean for you?
I mean, my coaches are amazing, along with all the trainers and whatnot, but they just do such a good job at caring for us. I remember at one point, I was telling you beforehand, my velocity dropped, and we were trying to figure out all that. And C-Rod, Jaffe, Beak, and a couple of the other coaches pulled me aside, and they're like, look, man, we don't really care that your velocity is down. We care about you. We want to make sure that you're safe first. We want you to talk to your doctors and make sure all that's okay, and then we can worry about baseball. And that was just cool, just to know that like baseball is second, my health is first, and it's awesome that they knew that, and it's awesome that they weren't really thinking about like, oh, Jackson's not playing good, let's bench him or let's cut him or whatever. Which I've been in a program like that, so it was a big difference just to know that they have my back in all situations. That's
amazing. Val, how about you? Like when you reflect back on your time at Pacific, what resonates with you as far as the support that you got from anyone? It could have been from anyone you encountered.
I'm going to say coaching staff as well, and the donors. My first year at Pacific, my mom was actually diagnosed with cancer, and the coaching staff, the donors, everybody put on, an event just to help support me and my family. We had like a free throw-a-thon just to raise like some money to help us out. And it was like the biggest like support system I ever felt in my entire life, and it was my first time. I just got here, it was my first year. I was redshirting, I wasn't even playing. And I just felt so much love and support. I was going through a really hard time, and just knowing that, my coaching staff, my team, and everybody just supported me through that was just, I think that's the one event that I can think of that was just how I knew like it's different at Pacific.
How's your mom doing?
She's great. My mom's great. She's healthy. And so, yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I don't know if we've officially arrived at the Q&A portion of our program, but we do have a question. And since I'm with Val, I have a question for Val. And if anyone has questions, you can throw them in the chat window. Are there any other rookies on your team? If so, where did they play?
There's quite a few rookies. I think right now our roster still remains at 18, and they can only have 12 players. Michaela Onionware from UCLA. I'm going to try to name everyone here.
Yeah, do it.
Janelle Bailey, she's from North Carolina. And Dee Dee Richardson from Baylor is the three that are in my draft class. And then we have a couple other rookies who are a little bit older that have been like maybe overseas or played, you know, professionally somewhere else and are still trying to make it into the WNBA. But in my draft class, it's us four.
Okay, cool. Other questions? This is for everyone. Val, I'm going to start with you since I'm on you right now. Your favorite memory playing Pacific basketball?
Oh man, I have to say going to the WNIT. I think that was 2 years ago, making it to postseason, playing postseason. It was just exciting and it was a lot of fun. I think that was a really special year, a really special team. And just making it to a postseason was so exciting. And I think, you know, the year after that, I think we would have made it postseason too, but with COVID, everything kind of got cut short. But it was a really awesome experience.
Cool. Jackson, how about you?
You know, I think it has to go with the recent walk-off that we had. That was pretty fun. And I remember
who was that? Gavello, right? And Friday?
Tommy Gavello, yeah. And we were trying to get a rally going. So we put our hats kind of like this. And we said, we're platypuses for some reason. I don't know why. And we were trying to get everyone to do it. So we had the whole dugout to buy in. All of our hats were like that. And we started T-posing for some reason, which if you don't know what that is, we just put our arms out to the side and started rotating. And then Tommy hit down, I think it was right field line. And we went crazy and just swarmed him. We were all throwing our jackets up, throwing water everywhere. And that was just a good time.
To give some context to that, it was 7-4 going into the ninth, and USF scored 3 runs in the top of the ninth. So it could have been a deflating, crushing moment for you guys, and you guys were resilient. Not to mention, was there a bases loaded jam with no outs in the top of the 10th or something like that? I mean, there was a runner at third, no outs in the top of the 10th, and you guys got out of it. I'm not sure who was on the mound when you guys got out of it.
Yeah, Zach Patterson clutched up and kind of went off, just throwing heat to the batters. So that was sweet. And
so I'm calling this game, and I'm thinking as we're going to the bottom of the 10th, I'm like, someone's got to help him out because he just escaped basically 2 jams, and you guys came through for him in the bottom of the 10th. That was a riveting win. Victoria, how about you? What's your favorite memory from competition?
For sure, winning GCCs for the first time and going into NC2As for the first time after and flying to Indianapolis and staying at the Hiltons and playing against Stanford for the first time. That was a nice memory.
Cool. All right, you guys are all candidates to be back on one of these things in 10 to 20 years. Like we've had so many of our former Tigers on. So I'm going to ask you this now, and maybe in 20 years we can follow up. But you're all legacies to your program. And I'm going to start with Victoria. Where would you like to see your program in, 10, 20 years with you having been a part of what got it, where it's going? Like, where would you like to see Pacific women's water polo be in 20 years?
Be in the top 4 in the nation.
And it can happen, right? I mean, the men are right there. I mean, the women can be right there.
Having more Hungarian players on the team.
Okay. Well, you can help with that. You can be our.
I'm on it. I'm trying to recruit some. So.
Okay. We appreciate that. I'm sure James does too.
Yes.
Jackson, how about you? When you guys are legacy of Pacific baseball. You're in it right now. So where do you want to see the program go? And I know, you guys have yet to go to the WCC tournament. I think that'd probably be a start in your mind, but 20 years down the road, what do you want to see?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love us to win that tournament and get a chance to go to the College World Series, maybe win a regional, win a super regional, make an appearance. I mean, that's always the dream. So it'd be great to see if I could somehow start something to get us on the board, even if it's just minuscule. I'd love to be a part of that.
I love that. Val, how about you?
I'm just going to start with saying winning a WCC championship, winning the WCC tournament, making it to the NCAA tournament, going for a run in the NCAA tournament. And I'm just going to say all of it because speak it into existence. And everybody on this call is going to remember that I said it. So I just think, it's like the WCC has always been kind of, especially on women's basketball side, BYU and Gonzaga. They're always like the top at the top. And I don't see for any reason why Pacific can't be right there. And that's what I want to see. I want to see Pacific at the top. I want to see us succeed and win. And just to know that I was a part of that and that I started that would be amazing.
Well, I love that you took it step by step too. I knew a coach that used to coach at LMU men's basketball, and he said that one of the faults there back in the day was that they had gone to the Elite Eight with Hank Gathers in the late '80s and early '90s, and he said they were like 15 years removed from that, and they were like, we want to get back to the Elite Eight, and at that point, like, they hadn't even won the WCC tournament in a long time, so you got to go step by step, I think, and get that foundation. I think you're spot on with laying all that out, I think, step by step. All right, this is for all of you from the gallery. Val, I'll start with you since you're here right now. Name someone who has had a big impact on your time at UOP and success other than your coaches.
I'm gonna say Amelia Lee. She was one of the
teammate, right?
Yeah, my former teammate, best friend. Like, I love her. She's just a competitive person and just so much fun to be around. I talk to her almost every day still. And just when I came in, I think she just has like this fire underneath her, this competitive fire that was just contagious. And that's the year that, we went to the WNIT, and just playing with her and just being on the court with her. She's so much fun. I tell her every day, like, you were the best point guard I've ever played with, just because she's so competitive and she brings out the best in you as a player and as a person. And she just had a great impact on me.
Love that answer. Jackson, how about you?
And I love my friend Joe Solomon. He is a very interesting man in what he does. We call each other weird. We're like the weirdest people we know. And when we're needing to start a rally or get something going in the dugout, we'll go crazy. We'll start dancing, just yelling gibberish and having a good time. And he's also such an intelligent guy in what he does. I think he's going on to med school at some point. And his brain just works so interestingly. And I think that he's going to have a great impact on me, whether it's on or off the field.
Awesome. Viktoria?
I would say Brinley Bartels, one of my ex-teammates, because she started her freshman year, I think, with 1 or 2 goals, and then she ended up her 4th year with 30 goals or even more. So her improvement was just so amazing, and also she's one of the smartest person I ever known. And I think her major was biochemistry. So she was doing biochemistry, she had a job, and she was doing water polo. So it's amazing. Like, she's my role model, actually. Awesome.
All right, I'm going to start with Viktoria. If you knew someone that was coming to Pacific from Hungary, what would you tell them about their experience they're about to have at Pacific?
That you will find a family here. That's it.
That's perfect. Jackson, someone coming from Bakersfield, coming to Pacific, what would you advise them?
Not too different. It's hot, and people look down on it. So show them the best, and that's what you got. We love this place.
What's your favorite restaurant in Bakersfield, by the way?
Ooh, Con Pie. I love the sushi there, but I think raw here is pretty dang good.
It is. It is. You ever eat at Rice Bowl in Bakersfield? It's downtown. Some of my favorite Chinese food ever.
I don't think I have.
Okay. Well, next time you're in town, downtown, it's Rice Bowl. It's kind of a hidden gem, and they load you up with food. It's great. Val, what would you tell someone that has just committed to Pacific if they asked you what it's going to be like, and for some advice?
Take a lot of pictures. I think looking back, I have so many memories, and I just didn't take enough pictures, with my friends. I think that's one of my biggest regrets. I'm not a person that's really on their phone that much, but it goes by really fast. 4 years went by extremely fast, and the more pictures you have to remember all these memories that you're going to have, the better. So
awesome. I think we're good. Those are the questions from the gallery. And I think we're good. I want to thank everyone for being here, not only tonight, but this last year. I know this is the last Tiger Talk of the season. Are we going to start? Do we have any idea when we're going to start these up, Bree?
Not yet.
Okay.
They'll be back in some form.
Okay. So sit tight, and once we have Tiger Talk scheduled to come back, you'll all be the first to hear about it. But student athletes, we love you all. We're so proud of everything you're accomplishing. We're grateful you chose Pacific, and you're a great legacy for the school and for your respective programs. So thank you all, and go Tigers. See you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.